four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been loved and a terrific show off.
I love it. 18.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome to the latest iRacing series from Chaz Draycott Media, the Dirt Legend Speedway Super League. Taking inspiration from the long-standing Dirt Oval Sports Speedway, the Legend Speedway Super League swaps 2 wheels for 4 in the form of the addictively fun Dirt Legend. The format remains similar to that of a Speedway Grand Prix though, with a number of heats featuring just 4 drivers at a time, where they score points and battle for spots in a final at the end of the night. The series will have another angle to it though, focusing on a team or duos championship as the primary goal. Drivers must sign up in pairs and share liveries to try and go for team glory. Format testing showed evidence of a quick-fire race evening full of entertainment and close competition, sure to get the blood pumping. Hoping to get underway at the start of February, you can expect sign-ups to open very soon, and we look forward to having you on track. Good evening everybody, good evening and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to another round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're here for round 3 of the season and it is of course the final round in the first quarter of the championship. The way that this championship works is that this season it's figured out in 4 different quarters where we have trios of races basically and then a week off in between. This round 3, will finish our it will lead into our European tour and it'll finish our American tour because we've had, of course, the first round at Laguna Seca, we've been to Road America, and now we come here to the wonderful Daytona International Speedway. My name is Chaz Draycott. I'm delighted to have Ed May alongside me in the commentary box once again. And Ed, we have had some amazing races here at Daytona before. Tonight is going to be no different, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful circuit to come to. One of my personal favourites as well. I believe this is where I racked up my first ever win in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge all the way back in Season 1. So I can say it's a circuit I very much enjoy racing, but also commentating because it gives no shortage of action and certainly some wonderful racing and maybe some clever strategies as well with the fuel saving. Plenty of opportunities to slipstream and save some fuel, which make all the difference when we come to the pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely can. This race is certainly one that can be won in the pit lane. With all that slipstreaming, it can make a big difference over the course of the night. We'll have a quick look at the championship standings at present, and as you see, it is Simon Povey that is top of the pile on 48 points from Dominic Brennan, Spontex CDM Esports driver, on 42. We know that Simon isn't going to be available for the whole championship, so it's quite intriguing to see how he gets on, obviously, before his absence for the rest of the championship. Danny Lee's had a fantastic run so far. He's just ahead of Christopher Smith and Taylor Adams, who are tied on 32 points. And over in the teams championship, there's a tie as well for the top spot. RD Simsport and Danny Lee Pro Simrig absolutely together on points, which is awesome to see. Very close indeed at the top of the standings. And to be fair, Ed, it's what we've sort of come to expect, isn't it, from this campaign and this championship? It's always very close all the way through.
Yeah, it's always just the highest level, especially when you get up to those top positions, because everyone's fighting so hard, and especially with some of the newcomers that have shaken up the order and added extra quality up at that sharp end of the field. It's going to be a real head scratcher for us in the comms box to figure out who's going to be the favourite coming in tonight. Both the Regenta sim racing cars look very strong around here, and obviously having a teammate up in the midst of that battle will give you that extra edge to take the race victory. Just ask Apex Racing Academy of how they did in seasons gone by around here.
Yeah, definitely. There's been some epic races here before, and again, we hope for another one this evening. I want to say a quick shout out as well to our championship sponsors. We have, of course, Oris Digital on board, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and a new sponsor for the remainder of the championship. A big shout out to Alex of Bespoke Shelters, who has also jumped on to support the series. Alex is the father of Toby Johns, who runs in the series. Toby is not out on track at the moment, but he is down there in the pit lane in his McLaren. We're very grateful to have Alex on board, and he says that Toby's friends from school have been watching and really enjoying the broadcasting and supporting his racing. It's lovely to see that, isn't it, Ed? It's great when you get that support from your friends and family.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. It's great bringing people together as well. I think a lot of the time you get drivers talk about how they have it on their televisions, they have their parents watching it, and they watch back the races as well. So it's wonderful to have all of that outside of sim racing stuff bleed into it, because it's a great sort of competition that we have here, but also a nice friendly one. It's never too ugly. It's never, drivers getting too angry at each other. It's sort of almost like a family in itself, as well as obviously everyone else's families that they get on board to watch it all.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a bit of a cliche behind the family vibe in sim racing when you get a good league or a community together, but it really does feel like that, and it's great to have everybody on board, and the people involved are always wonderful to work with, and obviously just watch them racing as well. The racing is always respectful, it's always still exciting at the same time, doesn't take anything away from the competition. The Regenta cars are looking strong at the moment. The BMWs are probably going to be up there all night. Here's two of them right now, Dennis Van Beelen and his ex-teammate Nils Kaur. Satellite Racing's Nils Kaur won the previous round at Road America. He's currently 7th in practice, but we know how important qualifying can be. And to be fair, there's actually quite the spread in the field. I mean, Dominic Brennan's down there in 25th place at the moment, to be fair, Ed. He's only done 7 laps of practice so far, but then again, Simon Povey, he's done 9, and he's currently fastest. So it does show you. He does take the mick, actually, sometimes, and say, oh, Dom's actually practiced this week. He's done 3 laps. But to be fair, Dom's been really switched on, and he's second in the championship, so he's got the points to show that at the moment.
Yeah, definitely Dominic Brennan after some great podiums to start off the season. And let's not forget his titanic defence from Danny Lee, wasn't it, last time out? That was one heck of a battle, and I wonder if we're going to see any more heroics from Danny Lee, who's currently the highest positioned of the Aston Martins. Danny Lee Pro Simrig, driver who's got off to a great start for his season with a podium and then a 4th place. Still obviously is in with a shout of championship title because, like we mentioned, Simon Povey is not going to be around for the duration of the whole season, or so we would imagine at least. And of course, with some mishaps to Nils Court at the start of the season, a real championship favourite, could easily be going his way if he's able to string the results together. Let's not forget as well about Matt Slight and Taylor Adams for Regenta Sim Racing, 2 newcomers who have been really a breath of fresh air and looking to take the championship by storm, not just as the drivers pairing, but also for the team's championship.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing. It's not just the drivers' competition that everyone has to think about here. There is a team's championship here in the championship as well, and the championship of the championship, because that seems to be the word of the moment. Anyway, this is a look at the pit lane. Everybody will spawn in and fly out of the end of the pit lane, and they're going to get a good old run down the exit there. That's a much louder camera. I noticed that there's been some strange differences to iRacing's volumes recently. Thanks to those of you that watched last week and got in touch with me to explain that the volume of the cars when we were on board was seemingly louder. I had a look at some of the volumes on the actual cameras that we've got set up, and yeah, it seemed like some of them were a lot louder than others for some reason. I'm not quite sure where the variation has come in, but we've tried to level all of that out. But the track cameras that we've customised here seem to be still quite loud as well. There's Gary Toll in the Spontex CDM Esports unwashed Porsche. His teammate not here tonight, unfortunately. Jakub Szymanski is working this evening, so he's unable to join in. Drew Fletcher, our very own Drew Fletcher, of course, from Derbyshire Holiday Homes, one of the championship sponsors. He's actually over in the United States at the moment as well. He was, actually, I think he got home literally this morning. He's been to the Daytona 24 hours, so he's been living the life out there and enjoying himself. He even bumped into Gunter Steiner, will you believe? I think he's a man looking for a job at the minute, but he's enjoying himself, is Drew. Thanks again, Drew, for sponsoring the series. We really appreciate it. And obviously in chat, let us know if you have any predictions for tonight. Anyone you've got your eye on. To be fair, Ed, with the quality of the field that we've got at the front, it's hard to know, isn't it, really? We've had so many great races so far. Anyone within maybe the top 15 could be a race winner.
Yeah, and of course as well, a lot of qualifying around Daytona is as much skill at getting the lap hook together as it is luck of finding yourself out on circuit in the right possible moments with the perfect slipstream and without getting held up. It's all of those factors that combine together that could result in a pretty shaken up grid from what we might be expecting to see. Only time will tell, of course, as the drivers are certainly going on the high side, burning off as much fuel as possible, but also carrying as much speed as they come across the line to start their first flying laps.
Across the line then goes John Barnes. That's another very loud camera here at Daytona, unfortunately. We've got the golden McLaren of Simon Povey just crossing the line. Pete Thickett is out there in the beautiful BMW again, the Scuderia Chicken House Egg livery, instead of course, the Tic Tac car. We also have a new livery tonight for Fausto Pinto as well. He's running this lovely sort of shiny polyagonal green colour scheme for this evening and for the remainder of the season, I believe. Not quite sure what it's based on, it doesn't jump to mind, but it looks great. It's like a bit of dazzle camouflage, isn't it, really?
It's very nice indeed, and when you get to the rear end of the car, you can especially see sort of a nice shiny effect onto the paintwork.
It's almost pearlescent, isn't it?
Yeah,
which isn't something you can normally do in iRacing.
Yeah, very nice effect. There we go. I think some of the drivers are getting away onto the banking for their flying laps. There we go. Gary Tall, I think, will be the first driver to cross the line, punching a hole in the air for the 2 Regenta cars. Of course, that's exactly what you need around here as a teammate to help you out, get those extra few tenths per second in towards the what they call the Le Mans chicane, but I think will always be known to me as the bus stop chicane.
Me too.
Attacking it very hard indeed. Wonderful run through by Taylor Adams. Careful, of course, on the way out to not get an off track, because that will invalidate the lap. Seems to be all good and clean for now. Got them gaining as well. All of them, and especially keep your eyes open for Matt Slight, who's going to be getting a double helping of the slipstream. Across
the line they go to set the times, and Matt Slight goes fastest with a 1:52. .271. Taylor Adams goes second fastest. Dean Powell is third for Danny Lee Pro Simrig. And Gary Tall will definitely want to now be the beneficiary of some slipstream around the circuit. Fausto Pinto crosses the line. Simon Povey, where does his first lap put him? 4th place at the moment. Christopher Smith goes into 8th. Mark Johnson has actually set a purple middle sector on his lap. Where is Johnson going to go? He is 10th at the moment. Pete Thickett behind him as well. Ben Chalcraft. Oh, what flavour is Ben this evening? We need to catch up with Ben and see. Oh, it's a change to the blue livery this evening. I'm not quite sure what snack that is. We'll have to have a look on the bonnet. Can't quite see. I think it looks like the salted sea crunches again, but maybe a different flavour. But Ben was, of course, running the... Was he in red last week? Can't remember now. They've had that many. Is Mike Murphy still...
There was a yellow and a green.
Yeah,
I can't remember
was
if we saw
originally...
too much of him because...
Yeah, Ben was originally yellow. Now then it was red. Mike Murphy's been green from the start, but Ben is going through all the different flavours over the course of the season, which I absolutely love, in the Seabrook livery. There's apparently a story behind it, not actually being... Like, Seabrook isn't the gentleman that runs the company, or owned it. It wasn't actually Seabrook as his surname, but it was the letter C and then Brook. But somebody misheard that and just called it Seabrook in one word. And they thought it was funny, so they stayed with it. So, yeah, is what it is. Matt Slight and Taylor Adams, though, currently 1st and 2nd. Are they going to stay there, though? That's the thing. You need to be in the right place at the right time in this sort of qualifying session. You need to certainly make the most of the slipstream, but it's a long lap here as well, though, isn't it, Ed? So if you do come out of the pit lane, or go in at least, to get some new tyres and, you know, try and get tyres while the car is still burning the fuel off, you're going to spend a lot of time then just getting back out on the circuit and up to speed again, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. I'm having a look as well. I think they've swapped it around, so Taylor Adams is getting a help in the slipstream. And is that Dean Powell in the mix as well? Just trying to get some extra speed. Yes, it is. His teammate Danny Lee still down in 7th place. Mark Johnson, he was in 10th, but with the laps that have come through, that's put him down now into 15th place. Mark actually seems to have done pretty well for himself at Daytona. I seem to remember him fighting up with me for periods of the race in which I won, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can maybe get up to fight for those podiums and maybe even race victory himself. I was waiting to see when Niels Kaur would make his appearance on the timing sheets, and his first effort is enough for P2 onto the front row. Of course, it doesn't necessarily matter exactly where you qualify on here just because of the slipstream, but being up inside that top 5 is a real sort of stamp of your authority and proof that you're going to be trying to fight for those race wins.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about, you know, getting into the head of your opponents, let's say. It's all mind games. Martin Kenyon has crossed the line, but no valid lap time from him yet. He's done just the 1 lap, so goes on to his 2nd fast lap. Dominic Brennan has done 3 laps, none of which have counted so far. He's been really quick in the final sector, though, so I think maybe he's just been overdoing it around the bus stop, maybe, and just getting an incident point or 2 there. In front of him is car 64, which is Ryan Walker in the Satellite Racing Aston Martin. Ryan was absent from the previous round at Road America, but he had a good start to his season at Laguna Seca. So he's going to be hoping to score some big team championship points, of course, with his teammate that won the race last time round, Niels Kaur. He's got Dominic Brennan all over the back of him, hoping to use that tasty, tasty slipstream. I think Dom's going to be hoping not to have to work so hard this time round, isn't he, to be honest, as Taylor Adams has moved back up into 2nd place there, Ed. He's back ahead of Niels Kaur.
Yeah, an improvement to his time and his position. Simon Pope is going to be coming across the line as well with a nice helping of slipstream, and that sees him just edging ahead of Matt Slate.
Oh, no.
Oh, and then he has turned by Fausto Pinto, helps him out, and then, well, does
helps
the
him
exact
off.
opposite. Yeah, does the exact opposite in towards turn 1, but it's going to be something that we might see fairly often as Niels Kaur now goes to the top of the timing sheets. The circuit seems to be coming to the drivers, and we are, of course, going to be racing into and I think through the sunset, so the track is only getting cooler, so that means the times will only be getting faster.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the key points about this evening, is that the light will be fading, the lights will be coming on here at Daytona. I don't think it's going to go completely pitch black darkness, but the sun will set about half an hour into the race, so it will get quite low and gloomy. It'll look very atmospheric. Danny Lee has moved up into 4th place now in the Aston Martin. James Holman is there in 6th place in the Mercedes as well, going strong. And Paul Goffin is currently the highest placed Porsche. Paul's going really well at the moment, actually. They're in 8th place. He's just ahead of John Barnes in the McLaren for boosted. Actually, no, John is a privateer this season. He wears the boosted livery, but because there's 3 of them and they only have 2 car teams available to them, it is John Roberts, and I believe the other boosted driver is not here this evening, potentially. Just looking up and down the order. No, I don't see the other boosted driver there, which is Mike Horder. Now Mike's usually a front runner as well, so I'm intrigued to see that Mike's not around. We'll have to see what comes of that. Dominic Brennan still hasn't done a valid lap here, and it's important to focus on Dom because he's right up there in the championship. 2nd place behind Simon Povey. John Barnes does a purple sector 2 and goes 8th fastest in the McLaren. Certainly a circuit that's drawing a lot of the strengths and weaknesses out of the cars here, Ed, but to be honest, I can't see a clear favourite right now. Sure, the McLarens are going well, but I don't know. Not sure if that's going to be the case in the race.
I'd still put my money on Nils Corr, and he's just done a purple 1st sector, so that could be something to look forward to when he comes up to the line. No improvements elsewhere. He was behind one of the Chicane Online racing cars, but does not improve on his time there. I still think Nils Corr could be a favourite. Obviously, we know that the BMW, when it gets to the sort of higher end of 6th gear, does have that extra little bit of grunt that the other cars just seem to lack. And also, out of these slower corners, especially the 2 sort of hairpins, horseshoes I guess they call them here in America, those little corners, it does have a good getaway from those, so that's going to be something to think about. Looking further back at one of the other BMWs, this is Kyle Ridley for Winner or Bennett Racing. It's had some decent hauls of points over the course of the season so far, but I think it is just Kyle here tonight. He's without his teammate, unfortunately.
Yeah, Stephen Burns, unfortunately, not able to get back from working time this evening, which is a shame. But one thing we always respect here in the Sim Racing Magazine community and in the championships that it brings with it is that real life always comes first. There's no direct punishment for it, but we don't do drop rounds either, so a bit of a contradiction there on my part, but I hate drop rounds, so it is what it is. But Paul Goffin is piquing my interest here. He's gone fastest in the middle sector. He's done a green sector 4. He's improving here. I don't think he's necessarily in anybody's slipstream though. See what he can do. And the lap doesn't count.
I think he might have invalidated it potentially coming out of the bus stop chicane. He did go pretty high onto the banking, so I think just looking for more speed to take into turn 1. But again, without the slipstream, you're really going to struggle to make headway up the order.
It's going to feel like the car's driving into a brick wall as Mike Murphy goes up into the top 10, gets himself on the 5th row of the grid in the BMW. Gary Tall in 11th, Christopher Smith in 12th. Dominic Brennan now breaks into the top 10 in the Porsche. He goes up into 9th place. There's a lot of drivers around him that are close to him in the championship as well. He'll definitely want to overtake those. The 2 Myers are not here this evening, Ralph and Heinz. Ralph is in the YouTube chat though. Good evening, Ralph. Good evening, Gilles Gardner as well. And of course, Rob Sharp. How are your... Well, I was going to say, how are your Robs doing, Rib? But how are your Ribs doing, Rob? Hope you're doing well, mate. Rob Sharp, of course, a regular in this championship, but unfortunately not with us this season due to breaking his ribs, unfortunately, or fractured ribs. And obviously it's not comfortable and an easy task to go sim racing in such a condition. So we wish Rob all the best and, of course, the quickest of recoveries. We'd love to see him back out there on track. Thank you to all of you in the YouTube chat. Oh, Heinz Mayer is in there as well, actually. I didn't see you there, Heinz. I do apologise, mate. Of course, the guys behind the sponsorship of the championship as Oris Digital and Crockery Direct. They also provide a lot of our competitors with medals and certificates, even champagne and chocolates as well when it comes to the end of season awards. They're very supportive of the championship and have been since day one, and it's wonderful to have them on board. So, Paul Goffin, another purple sector here. What do you reckon? Not enough of an improvement elsewhere?
I think he's still going to stay on the high, still on the high side, so he's not feeling like his time's going to improve. A little bit of a blink out as well. He's just hoping that someone's going to be in front of him to drag him over the line, but it doesn't seem to be the case at the moment, and that just shows, even with the purple middle sector, if you don't have the help elsewhere on the circuit, you're really going to struggle, and this is going to be his final attempt at improving, and with no one around to give him that assistance, I think he's going to have to settle for 10th place at the very least.
Yeah, it's looking like a tough session for some of these guys right now. Simon Povey is second, or he was. James Holman goes second in the Mercedes. That's a fantastic time by James. There's 2 other Mercedes in the field. One of them down in 23rd place. Well, now into 24th place. The other one in 23rd. Kyle Ridley moves up into 7th. So some last gasp, I should say, improvements here. And Simon Povey goes fastest by 68 thousandths of a second. Let's not forget you get a point for pole position as well. So Simon Povey puts the Hedgehog machine at the very front of the grid, and he's got the number 65 of Taylor Adams right behind him. And I tell you what, if you're going to slipstream anybody on this circuit, right now, it's Taylor Adams' place to be. Because Simon Povey being quickest. I know, what is he doing?
What is he doing in that middle sector that no one else is able to replicate?
He's just absolute. I don't know if it's a bug with the graphics. It's just locked into magenta.
That thing. No, it might be some of the graphics. I don't know. He's absolutely caning that thing through that middle sector. No one else can really match him. I'm looking at the sectors on our chart, and they all seem to be. He's certainly the fastest driver through that 3rd sector. So he's really giving it the beans through there. And that's also, I think, where the Porsche is at its strongest, is in that tight, twisty, sort of final part of the infield. Putting the power down and accelerating, something that Porsche is wonderful at. But now, as he comes over the line, looking to improve, will he get the time he's hoping for? I don't think it will be an improvement for him. No. Sadly not. He's going to be staying now in 13th place. He was 10th last lap, but all of those improvements have come through and just moved him a little bit further down the order. That shows, though, of course, we can't look too far into this qualifying session.
Pinto improves. There is no improvement there from Dean Powell. Gary Tall crosses the line. He improves, goes 14th. Mark Johnson goes up into 17th in the Aston Martin. Niels Kor crosses the line for one final attempt. He does not improve, but Dennis Van Beelen, who he was racing next to, has improved for Chicane Online Racing. He puts himself on the 5th row of the grid. Christopher Smith also improves, but it's not often we tell you that Christopher Smith has improved into 15th place. A team that won the Teams Championship a couple of seasons ago, RD Simsport, always front runners, but it's a very different kettle of fish at this very moment here at Daytona. But we know what Christopher's like. He is the sort of guy that will overcome that with a really strong strategy here tonight. If he puts himself in the right place at the right time, I'm excited to see what RD can pull out of the bag. But it is mighty, mighty close, with 1.1 seconds or 1.2 give or take separating the top 19, top 16. Just as Jakub Szymanski has pointed out, top 16 cars within a second of a near 2-minute lap here, Ed. That is remarkable.
That is very tight indeed. So, going to see if the drivers are able to translate that good qualifying pace into good race pace. But nothing else. It'll certainly set the stage for a wonderful round of racing here at Daytona. Simon Povey, as ever, his favourite place, and place he spends probably the most time in, pole position, ahead of Niels Kor. James Holman as well. Keep your eyes open for him, because that Mercedes, it's certainly not the car in favour this season, but I think with him behind the wheel of it, he can certainly put out a great show and challenge for that race victory.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an exciting race no matter what. Always is here at Daytona. We've got to have just the short parade lap here with this time, as opposed to last week where we had, I think it was almost 5 minutes long when they went around Road America very, very slowly. But this time here at Daytona, they start on the back straight, they go through the bus stop and then round the banking, and we'll get the race underway from a rolling start. The session ticks over, it all goes quiet, you'll see everything blink in and out, and then we'll be good to go here at Daytona. Just waiting now for them all to form up. There they are on the back straight. Gary Tall in the middle of the pack. Simon Povey loads in at the front of the field. And he's got the two Danny Lee Pro Simrig Aston Martins behind him. They are 5th and 8th on the grid respectively. Danny Lee is the nearest to us. And then Dean Powell just behind. He's got Kyle Ridley for company on the 4th row of the grid. But we'll have a look through said grid just now. Simon Povey starts on pole position with Niels Kor alongside him. The two will go to battle once again. James Holman starts 3rd in the Mercedes with Matt Slight alongside him. Then it's Danny Lee and Taylor Adams. Kyle Ridley and Dean Powell make it to row 4 ahead of Dennis Van Beelen and John Barnes. Dominic Brennan starts down in 11th place from 2nd in the championship, with Ryan Penny up there in 12th place. Great qualifying by Ryan. That really slipped under the radar, that one, Ryan. Fair play. Paul Goff in 13th, ahead of Gary Tall in 14th. Christopher Smith and Mike Murphy make up row 8 of the grid. They won't like hearing that. Mark Johnson 17th, ahead of Kim Such, with Pete Thickett in 19th place in the BMW alongside Ryan Walker for Satellite Racing. Efkan Berkier, he's going to be hoping for an improvement, maybe one of his overtaking masterclasses again tonight from 21st, ahead of Ben Chalcraft in 22nd. Then we have Toby Johns with John Roberts alongside him on row 12. Fausto Pinto in 25th and Philip Hopley in 26th. Then it's Martin Kenyon 27th, ahead of the boss man Andy Marston, and Peter Brill in car 13 is 29th at the back of the grid. We've got a couple missing for this meeting, Ed, but it's still a very, very beefy grid, isn't it? Considering it's round 3 of the championship, we do often have a few people missing by this point, but it's not really that the numbers ever diminish, is it? It's just real life coming first, like I always say.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see, of course, some of these drivers, especially, I think, Danny Lee. We saw some of his amazing racecraft on display at Road America, but it wasn't quite enough to get the podium that he was chasing last time around. Maybe this time his fortunes will be slightly more favourable as we get started off on a short run behind the pace car into the start of this race, which I'm sure the drivers will be much more happier with after the long pace lap they had to have at Road America.
Yeah, it shortens the race length by about half an hour. But yeah, Simon Povey's got a lot of work to do. Niels Corey is trying to play the mind games here. Look, he's already alongside him. And while it's a very bright and beautiful livery, that BMW looks so mighty menacing in it. It just looks so awesome. The Satellite Racing car. Spontex CDM Esports Gold McLaren almost looks friendly in comparison. You've got the very angry Mercedes of James Holman behind as well. Then you've got a mix of the Regenta Sim Racing McLarens and the Danny Lee Pro Simrig Aston Martins with Kyle Ridley in there. This is going to be a great start. Any quick
James will
suggestions?
fancy this up the inside into turn 1. I can really feel it because he's going to be able to see when Simon goes as well. So he's going to hope that he gets the jump on Niels Core.
Keep your eye on that black and magenta McLaren, everybody, because as we get underway for round 3 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge from Daytona, it's going to be a wild start, and James Holman has got the jump that he wanted. Simon Povey leads us down towards turn 1, but James is ahead of Niels Core already. It's worked out for him beautifully. Matt Slight is down the inside as well, hoping to take advantage of that. Everybody trying to behave themselves onto the brakes into turn 1. Look at the field making its way through. Oh, so pretty. Oh, so beautiful. There's Philip Hopley. A bit further down the order, but it looks like everyone's behaving themselves, at least towards the back end of the order. Check in with Dean Powell just inside the top 10. There's always a bit of a check up here into the International Horseshoe. It looks like, again, everyone behaving themselves for the time being. It's Simon Povey that leads this race. Oh, Martin Kenyon's had an off, actually. He's had a spin on the exit, unfortunately. But James Holman, well, he did exactly what you thought he'd do, Ed, and he's taken advantage of it early on, but he's got a big train behind him.
Yeah, it's so difficult if you're starting alongside. If you're in second place at the start of a race around Daytona, it's so hard to go right when the leader goes. And if you're just that little bit too behind the mark, even by a couple of tenths, that really just opens up the door, because it's a long, long run down in towards turn 1. You're going to be up on the outside line, and it's just so difficult, especially with cold tyres, to fight and keep that position. So I think Niels Core realised that it's a long race. It's better just to concede the position and try not to lose too much time to Simon out in front. So we have here for Ryan Walker, just over-rotating the car. And that's something that we see fairly often, actually, with the Aston Martin. Just that little bump seems to upset it coming onto the banking, and then when the traction control kicks in, it actually makes it a little bit harder to manage the spin. So something for drivers of the Aston Martin to certainly be wary of.
Something to be wary of if you're James Holman is that massive BMW behind. Now, is Niels Core going to bump him? Yeah, Niels is going to push him. He's not going to try and overtake, because what he wants to do is help the pair of them stay with Simon Povey in that race lead. I can only apologise for the volume of that camera, everybody, because you're probably not going to hear me over that as this race goes on. Only when there's multiple cars. But we've got a great train of them all together here. Kyle Ridley's at the back of this, but look how close they are together after the first lap of the race here. Danny Lee just in front. Then it's the two Regenta Sim Racing McLarens. They're in a strong position right now, actually, aren't they, Ed? Because Taylor Adams has got ahead of Danny Lee in the opening lap, and that gives him the sort of opportunity to be a bit of a rear gunner for Matt Slight in these opening stages and control their position in this train.
Yeah, it's all about being able to work together, and especially when you're in these tightly contested battles, having your teammate right beside you, it gives you that sort of almost strength in numbers, really, when you're in those fights. And course, that is exactly what they'll be trying to do. I think you hit the nail perfectly square on the head there, as John Barnes is in a bit of a tussle, trying to hold the inside line, keep Gary Tall at bay, which he does.
Gary's actually
Really
under pressure from
nicely
Ryan
as
there.
well. He was actually for a little bit. Penny, hungry for positions in the Horus Racing yellow, even though it's orange. We'll move past that.
And the other team's called Horus Racing Green.
Yeah, again, not the most intuitive naming scheme and colour scheme for the Horus Racing boys, but a good laugh regardless. Talking about the progress up through the field that some drivers will have to make, Efkan Berkier has really got the burners on up 3 positions so far. Joint highest mover in the field, along with John Roberts, who's also up 3 positions, currently up into 21st place, and might be 4 places gained for Efkan Berkier, as he's looking all the way around the outside of the egg BMW. No way past just yet.
Yo, dog, we heard you like green and white BMWs, he's going to be thinking. Pete Thickett just in front of him, then Mike Murphy just in front of that. Kyle Ridley does the fastest lap of the race, unsurprising, as he's the one in that slipstream train. There's been a move, actually, because Danny Lee has gone down the inside of Taylor Adams, and Kyle Ridley wants a piece of it as well. The two of them are side by side as they go through the right, through the left. It's BMW versus McLaren, heading down towards the International Horseshoe. Dominic Brennan's having a battle in the background as well with Dennis Van Beelen. He's trying to just sneak that Porsche around, use the advantage it has on the brakes. He's not been able to really break through yet, as Efkan Berkier has bounced off the side of Pete Thickett. No love lost between these two after the incident at Laguna Seca. Pete moves over to the right-hand side. He's now on the inside line for the kink, and the Turkish driver has to just settle for position at the moment. He looks back down the inside, though. A big lunge by Efkan. He seems to be one of those drivers that's not scared to make the moves, is he, Ed? He really wants to get on with this, and he's now in front of the BMW. Great stuff.
He hit his marks in the braking zone, but I think the BMW might try and fight back. No, he just doesn't have the confidence on the brakes. It's a big beefy beast, the BM, and the brakes probably aren't as strong as, say, in the Porsche, which is a little bit more lighter and very nimble. We know that car can stop on a 5 pence piece like nothing else on this grid. So Efkan using his car's strength to his best, I guess, benefit, really, as Kim Such now in behind Mark Johnson for Legends Racing. Just going to settle into a rhythm, I think, now. A lot of these drivers, obviously ones that had the disappointing qualifyings, will look to move up the order as soon as they can, but the majority of the field, I think it's just going to be focusing on the fuel numbers and looking after the race that way. As James Holman seems to be dropping back a little bit from Simon Povey, and I think Nils Kaur is preferring to be the lead car in this hunt of Simon. And side by side now over the line. What a lovely shot that was to Simon Povey with the fastest lap of the race so far. Even faster
with
than...
no slipstream. Simon, stop.
That's ridiculous.
Stop it. Like, don't get me wrong, I am very happy that this man drives in my team and my colours, but for God's sake, Simon, make it subtle. Like, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Everybody else behind him pretty much has got slipstream in all of this. Sure, some of them are battling like these guys, but it's just... stop it. It's fantastic to watch. I mean, we're in awe of Simon every time we broadcast him, aren't we, Ed? You know, you've raced against him in this championship before. You know exactly what it's like to be up against him for the title. You know, he's just got that 5%, or even just that extra 1%. It's just always there in his back pocket, but he's not an idiot about it. You know?
No, he isn't.
Oh, it's just great to see, though. And one of the best things about it is it's similar to what I tell people about the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. There's one driver in that series, Norbert Kish, that is now 4-time champion. He's won it every season I've commentated on it, winning almost every race. But people don't see it as a negative thing. They see it as, right, we need to up our game here to catch up to this guy. They see it as a chance to up the playing field, or, you know, make everything else better, rather than nerfing that one driver to bring them back to an easier reach. And that's one of the best bits about it, is Dennis Van Beelen was a little bit hot there into the bus stop. But yeah, what Simon does is just, it's awe-inspiring.
I think... Sorry, Chaz, I was just going to say, I think that sentiment is becoming a lot more prevalent, I think, in motorsports in general. In seasons gone past, in various other categories, in BTCC and Formula 1, it was all about, oh, this team's miles ahead, we need to stop what they're doing, we need to try and figure ways around it. But now they're all realising, especially I think this season Formula 1, teams
done
have
it
just said,
again.
no, that Red Bull have just done it right, and other teams need to up their game, and I think that's been the sentiment all across the board, and we're seeing it a lot more in various other forms of motorsport as well, WRC, especially more in the sort of the IMSA and World Endurance Championship.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of that opinion that you just have to do what you can do better than anyone else, and if you're not on there, then it's something that you need to look at rather than looking at what they're doing.
I'm going to start looking at wedding venues for these pair in a minute. Pete Thickett and Efkan Berkier are absolutely glued to each other at the moment. It's a fantastic battle. They're constantly side by side whenever we look at them. Pete Thickett in the big old BMW trying to close the door on Efkan Berkier, and Efkan's just constantly got the little pointy nose of that Porsche down the inside. He's just always somewhere around that Beamer. Nope, that's the wrong camera, Chaz. We want that one, because then we can see the Porsche just clinging to that front right arch. And then all of a sudden, as we come out of here onto the banking, he's going to slot back in behind him, back into the slipstream again. Mark Johnson and Kim Such are going to be laughing all the way to the bank watching this, because all that time they can sit there and save fuel and use the slipstream to their advantage. Look at Efkan now starting to close in the Porsche. Now they get onto the straight part of the circuit. It's his choice whether he goes low or high, and well, he's just going to sit behind Pete Thickett, or is he? He has a look down the inside, but he brakes early. You've got to be a little bit tapped in the head to try and go through at the bus stop, haven't you?
Yeah, a little look, but not quite a full look, as we can see Philip Hopley just leading this train of cars. Fausto Pinto, Toby Johns, and Chalcraft in his sort of tyre tracks is out in front. James Holman and Niels Core continuing to push each other along, or well, Niels Core pushing James along. Danny Lee up into 4th place as well.
Yeah, he's past Matt Slight.
Of Matt Slight, so that's one more position gain for Danny Lee. Well, one position gain overall, because he did drop back earlier on in this race, so he's making some good headway and going to be hunting down yet another podium. Essentially, as it stands, the race victory is well within sight for all of those drivers, pretty much in that top sort of 7 or 8.
Pete Thickett there really closing the door on Mark Johnson, didn't give him the room at all when they got to the apex. Mark was a little bit late looking down the inside, but well, Pete really closed the door on him there. It was good avoidance by Mark to make sure he didn't turn that BMW around. Now Kim Such wants to take advantage of that, and John Roberts wants a piece of it too. This is Aston Martin, Porsche and Mercedes all together on the circuit. There's a massive train of cars in the middle of the field as well, actually, just in front of Christopher Smith. He's got Gary Tall, John Barnes, Dominic Brennan and Dennis Van Beelen in there in that 5-car quintet. But it's Simon Povey that continues to lead this race in the gold McLaren. And to be fair, Ed, there is nothing long game about this stint at all, is there? He is just absolutely going for it right now, putting in qualifying lap after qualifying lap to try and stretch out that advantage and also not give the guys behind a chance to save fuel.
Yeah, he is really just pushing hard, but you've got to wonder if he's able to save any fuel himself. All those drivers in behind might be saving little bits here and there, whereas Simon Povey is, I will assume, foot flat to the floor of his McLaren, shiny gold McLaren. I think Danny Lee's definitely reeling in Niels Core and James Holden. Maybe the 3 of them pushing each other down to start first straight could be enough to catch up to Simon Povey and his pace.
There's been another little switch further back, because look at this lot. Paul Goffin has been overtaken now by Mike Murphy. Efkan Berkier wants to go around the outside. Lovely flying formation, boys. The Red Arrows would be jealous. But down the inside now, Goffin makes the move. Efkan tries to squeeze to the outside. Not sure if that's going to work. He's all the way around the outside. There's a little bit of a push there from Pete Thickett into the back of Mike Murphy. He has to back out of that. And then Mark Johnson tries to take advantage of it. Goffin's lost a place as well in all of it. Ryan Penny gets a bit of a breather looking further forward though. There's a send down the inside. And Efkan Berkier is completely around and sideways into the side of Mike Murphy. I think he's got some sort of PTSD with green BMWs. But he backs out and then gets going again. We'll have to have a look at that though, because I think there might have been a little move down the inside by Paul Goffin, and that's caught the guys out in front of them.
Yeah, I think that little look from Paul Goffin, it might have just spooked Efkan, because I saw it happening, and I saw it, I think, probably would have been seen in the
apologies,
mirrors.
Went a little bit late here.
Mark Johnson, just trying to avoid it. You can look here, just up the inside of Efkan Berkier, you're going to see a little look up the inside, and I think that just sort of spooks him out of it.
Oh, I don't
A
know.
little bit too much speed taken in though by Afghan, I think there.
Yeah, he was just going in a little bit too hot, wasn't he? In general. Great stuff by John Roberts, by the way, as well. Watch this from where John is. He's got this whole group in front of him. He's watched all these battles develop and change. You've got Kim Such there, just giving him a dab of brakes, just playing it safe. John has a look down the inside, sees the incident, there's smoke, he sticks to the inside line, slows it down. Thank you, I'll have 2 more places out of that. Lovely stuff. And that's experience on John's part as well. I've raced with John for a very, very long time, and you know, he was one of the first people I ever raced against on iRacing 10 years ago. And that sort of experience and that level-headedness from John is exactly how he races. You know, it's what I've always seen from him, and it's benefited him in that situation.
Yeah, and he could benefit from lovely
This.
helping of double slip all the way around the
Look at
outside.
that.
Well, love to see the cars 3 wide across the line, and now in towards turn 1 all the way around the outside. John Roberts, can he get it done? Look at the speed he takes through into the corner. Can he carry that momentum out of it? Not quite. It just gets away from him a little bit. Back end threatening to step out as well, but that was a lovely little battle. It's not done yet because looking up the inside, Pete Thickett tried for a brief moment to get one over on Kim Such, but nothing coming through for him there. Now, look at the battle out for the lead of the race. James Holman is certainly closer to Simon Povey, but so is Nils Cora. And now Danny Lee, I think, is officially in the fight for this race victory, because you can see him there dragging along the 2 Regenta Sim Racing cars who were once trying to keep him at bay and are now quite happy to have him out in front to punch that hole in the air and help him save that little bit extra fuel. All the while, Dean Powell is sort of...
I'd say he's in the battle for a race win and all.
He's still there as well. Yeah, he's just waiting around and biding his time. You can hear, I think, a bit of a lift off into the braking zone. Not the biggest one, but still, it can all add up over the course of a stint distance and help you out in the pits.
Yeah, Dean Powell just holding on to the slipstreaming range, like Ed said there, but he's got 3 seconds over Dennis Van Beelen, and then the guys behind. There's been big drama at the bus stop. John Roberts and Paul Goffin both around, and I feel that there may have been a look down the inside somewhere. It wasn't wanted, and it's always difficult to go through there. Let's have a look what's happened. John's gone in deep, and he's tried to get back to the apex. Goffin tries to go through. Now, I mean, it's a difficult one to call that, because Goffin went for a gap. He was continuing on the racing line. I think with what John was doing there, a lot of people would have just gone straight over the chicane, wouldn't they? Or at least slowed it down and gone over the grass. I don't know.
It's difficult to know. Obviously, in the moment, you can always look back with hindsight.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Make the best decision. But I think in those drivers, they're just fighting for every little bit of track, and one little misjudgment here and there, especially at those high speeds through that little bus stop chicane. That's just how it'll end naturally, I suppose. But meanwhile, John Barnes, one of the other cars running the boosted paint job, but only as a privateer for this season. In 13th place, not had the greatest start to the race, currently lost 3 positions as John, but still on track for some good championship points. Still more of that massive train of cars all the way down from Simon Povey, to be fair, and they say Dane Powell at the tail end, certainly still within contention, but Simon just through that middle sector, he seems to be able to have just that little bit extra compared to James, who isn't able to stick with him, and I think that's where everyone else is just dropping back, unfortunately.
It's an interesting bit of mind games, actually, from James Holman, because he hasn't let Nils Cole go and swap round to catch back up with Simon. He's still, while he knows that Nils can slipstream up to him and get alongside, he's not letting him by. So I know in a lot of cases people would want to swap these positions around and keep doing so in a way around this banking that doesn't lose the pair of you time. So Nils has now settled for pushing him instead, because he knows that James will defend it if he has to. He's going to back out of it a little bit there, because as you go around the corner, you don't want to lift the back end of that car up and spin him violently into the wall. But that is the moment, look, where Danny Lee really closes in now, and he's almost in touching distance of the back of that BMW, and the train resets once again partway around the lap. We've got flying formation from the Oris Racing green and yellow team. That is Ryan Penny being overtaken by Kim Such. The headlights come on here at Daytona as Pete Thickett has a little bit of a wobble there for just a moment, but look at this as well. Behind Toby Johns you've got a train, Fausto Pinto, Philip Hopley, Efkan Berkier, Ben Chalcraft and Ryan Walker. Toby's dad, one of the new sponsor of the championship, Alex Johns. We give you our sincerest thanks, Alex, for jumping on board as bespoke shelters. Oh, dearie me. That needs sheltering somewhere. Fausto Pinto straight into the back of Toby Johns. Everybody else avoiding on the exit. They get back up to speed. Efkan Berkier in there, Philip Hopley as well. A little bit late on the brakes there maybe from Fausto, and just gave the McLaren a tap. Oh, it's a very grumpy looking McLaren at the back now, unfortunately. But Toby continuing on. Nicely saved as well. It's very easy for that to get away from you and spin at that point, so a good save from Toby. He's the youngest driver in the field. Philip Hopley and Fausto Pinto side by side. Look at Efkan Berkier there taking advantage of that down the inside. Thanks very much, he says. In there as well is Ryan Walker after his earlier spin. He's recovering. An interesting group of drivers all together here, and this is just another one of those demonstrations, isn't it, Ed, that there's always someone to race with, always someone to battle against.
Yeah, and these drivers, let's not forget, are all fighting for those last few championship points all the way down to 20th place. So Fausto Pinto in 19th and Efkan Berkier in 20th. They're going to be getting something to go home with if the race ends as it stands. That's why all these drivers are looking and fighting pretty feistily up at this stage of the race for those positions. Just looking as well, of course, Fausto Pinto and Efkan Berkier, the two Porsches battling away. Hang about here. Is this going to be Nils Court all the way around the outside? No, not quite.
He tried it though. He really wants to get past. Really wants to get past James Holman now. And look at that. He's getting fed up with it now. The body language of the car has completely changed. He's all over the back of him, trying this way and that way to get through. And this has erupted now. These guys have decided, well, Nils has decided, he's not waiting around for James to catch back up with Simon. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. Ben Chalcraft and Philip Hopley have both come into the pits, maybe hoping to get into a bit of clear air after the battles that they were having. Simon Povey is now just over a second ahead of these guys as they last broke any of the timing beams. But let's not forget that Danny Lee, who we're on board with there, is definitely not the last one in this train. You've got the two Regenta McLarens, Kyle Ridley in the Win It or Bin It BMW, and then Dean Powell in the Danny Lee Pro Simrig car as well. So there's certainly a lot of elements to this battle. 4 of the 5 manufacturers. It's Dominic Brennan and Gary Tall who are the lead 2 Porsches. Spontex CDM Esports and Spontex CDM Esports Unwashed. So you can see the clear difference between the two when they're side by side on circuit. But Gary Tall flying the flag, even though it's covered in hair and dust, with Christopher Smith not too far back, and Dennis Van Beelen in the BMW, hoping that these pesky Porsches go away.
They don't seem likely to at the moment, do they? They're right up there with him. And I'm just watching now. Yep, they are going side by side. James Holman forcing Nils Court to go the long way around. And this is not what they need to be doing at all, because Simon Povey is just getting further and further into the distance.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds now. Simon is extending that gap. And these two are fighting for the rest of the positions. Look at that, James Holman. That's almost aggressive stuff as he goes up the circuit a little bit. It's great battling though. James races in the real world in Legends racing, so he knows what feisty racing's all about. And split-second decisions in sprint racing. Oh, Danny has to just tap the brakes there to not hit Nils Court. It's respectful stuff, but Matt Slight says, oh, that looks like a freebie to me, Chaz. I'm going to sneak down the inside in the Regenta McLaren. It's hardly a subtle paint scheme, but just gets alongside Danny. Has he got enough of a run? They need to be careful doing that as well, because if they break this pack up, the drivers behind them aren't going to be able to stay with the likes of Nils Court and James Holman, so it could also affect their chances at podium positions. These guys having a good scrap as well. Once again, Pete Thickett also in the thick of it, as we always say. He's got the 2 Porsches around him, these fantastic homage liveries. Funnily enough, actually, Pete originally painted this BMW in the Jägermeister colours and then saw the announcement from Oris Racing and had to change his livery on the day of the championship starting. So that's the only reason, really, that we get this gorgeous Tic Tac livery that is egg. And right now, he's going to be a bit fed up with the fact he's got to look at these orange Porsches.
I think also something that a lot of the other drivers will be getting fed up with, especially towards the front of the field, is Simon Povey and his delta to them, because he's now 1.8 seconds up the road, or near enough 1.8 seconds, and slipstream around here is about effective up into 1.8 seconds. So this is really going to be frustrating the likes of Nils Court, who can sense a potential race victory just having to become a fight for second place now.
One thing, I mean, I may jinx this. Oh, James Holman pitting early. Oh, Simon Povey also in. Wow, Nils Kaur is the only one that carries on. That is very, very significant to this race, everybody. It really is. Nils Kaur continues on while the rest of the field comes in. Who else is going to go by? Doesn't look like anybody other than Nils Kaur. Wow. I would have expected some of the guys from that middle pack to carry on, but no. We have, I mean, other than a wonderful 911 GT3 Touring ticking over there as our pace car, Gary Tall is pulling off as he had another. As Gary had another technical failure with either his headset or his PC or something. That'd be absolutely devastating for Gary if he has. He's been going so well since figuring out what the issues were and hopefully getting a fix for them, but yeah, he said he's had some connection issues before now that have been a problem. But yeah, Nils Kaur, well, this is not going to be important at this stage of the race because he may still come back out of the pit lane after this pit stop. How much time
has Simon Povey, how much ground has Simon made to the rest of the field? I think he's done what Nils might have done earlier, is take a shorter stop.
Yeah.
He's got a massive gap to James Holman. This is what Simon always does. And I said about it last time we were live, that he likes to do the short fuel in the first stop to get the gap because he's confident in his abilities to build the margin. So when he has the longer pit stop, he's still going to have that gap. And it's mainly done on long circuits with plenty of straight line speed areas, stuff like Spa-Francorchamps, maybe even places like Road America as well. He's just always on it with the strategy calls. And again, what can the drivers do about this? Nils Kaur, the only thing he can do is have a short stop himself. But does he know what Simon's done?
We'll have to wait and see, I suppose. He's got that one extra lap of fuel, and he's been able to bring it down into the pit lane. I don't really agree with going over that white line, but still, that's fine. Nils Kaur crawls the BMW down the pit lane. It's actually quite a high-speed pit lane here at Daytona. You can hear him changing up and down through the gears for no reason whatsoever. Doesn't affect anything. Don't ask anybody. He's going to come to a stop in the box. You could see, actually, the speed he was doing there as we changed to that shot looked ridiculous for a pit lane. And again, it's not quite like it used to be in the early 90s when there were no pit lane speed limits. There is Simon Povey just coming into the top of shot now. He's making his way down the start-finish straight, or not quite straight. And he is going to be hoping that Nils Kaur doesn't get moving yet. He's not actually started moving. He's been in for 23 seconds. 3 seconds more than James Holman. So he's really filled up that BMW in this first stint in the pit stops, and James Holman's going to drive on by. He's gained a lot of time on the guys behind, though. Christopher Smith has done a 16-second stop and put himself in this fight as well, Ed. Christopher Smith has played a blinder here. He's gained 9 places through that, and he's in this battle now. Amazing.
He's really gone for it. I mean, credit to Christopher. He's come back a treat. What do we say about Christopher Smith and his comeback drives? He's always just on it, time and time again. Once more, looks to be working in his favour, but he did have actually a very short pit stop, actually shorter than Simon Povey's quick stop.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he was sat, wasn't he, in a battle, and he was able to save a little bit of fuel here and there. So interested to see he's made that work. Matt Slight with one of the longest pit stops there, 26 seconds. Dean Powell behind him was 25.2. And these guys, as you can see, have dropped away from that pack in front of them. That's all the difference needs to be sometimes. They were in the pit lane for about 2 seconds longer than everybody else. You're in there for almost a minute with a standard length pit stop. But James Holman has also pulled a blinder at this point because he is now 2.4 seconds ahead of Nils Kaur behind him. And he's 6 seconds off the back of Simon. But it's got him away from that fight, and it's got him in an opportunity now where people aren't saving fuel using him. He can just run his race, not worry about the other cars, or what the other cars are doing, I should say, and just drive. And that's what James is so good at. He's another one, isn't he, that has pulled off some fantastic strategies since we've seen him in this championship. I mean, look at Jerez last season. That was an unbelievable victory in the Porsche. And, you know, he could still do that with the second stint here tonight. We'll have to see.
Yeah, definitely, and this was a circuit where we saw James Holman come into his own as well at Daytona in his Porsche. So that's, I think, something to always consider, is that this is not a weak circuit for him by any stretch of the imagination. Taylor Adams there with a very quick lap time in behind Nils Kaur, using the slipstream from the BMW to great effect. And these drivers going to work together, maybe with some bump drafting to help out on their pursuit of Simon Povey in the lead of this race. On their pursuit of second place with James Holman just a couple of seconds up the road.
Just trying to have a look here at what happened to Pete Thickett, by the way. We cut back to him earlier on. He was off the circuit in the pit lane. They're all...
I think he's got a penalty for it.
Oh, he's just driven into the back of the Porsche. I mean, Dominic Brennan was down the inside, and you know, they were too wide, so it would have felt like a silly thing to back out if you were Pete, but...
Dom's car, I think, was slightly ahead, wasn't it? Let's see if we can get maybe from the chopper cam.
I don't think Dom was in front, but the 61 definitely was.
No, yeah, Dom wasn't in front, but yeah, certainly the 61 was ahead.
He just tries to slot in, actually. I think Dom was letting him in. He tries to slot in, but he just bounces off the back of the 61 of Kim Such.
And that sees Pete Thickett with a penalty. I think if he hasn't been in already, he will have to come in and serve that pretty soon, I think.
That may have been for an unsafe pit exit because he crossed the white lines onto the grass and effectively onto the live circuit, which is a real shame for Pete. We've seen some fantastic performances from him before. He's a real character to have in the championship as well, but in the 2 rounds that he's had so far, he's not had much luck, especially with Porsches. He had an incident with Efkan Berkier in the first race at Laguna Seca, and then he has had this contact with Kim Such leaving the pit lane this time round. Through no fault of Kim's, to be fair, but you know, Pete just tried to slot in. It's only a little bit of human error. It happens to the very best of us. And Nils Court, I imagine, is going to be hoping to save some fuel. Did you see Danny Lee closing in then? It was like a missile. It was unbelievable. A very pretty white and metallic blue missile, it has to be said. But goodness me, that was a very, very high amount of closing speed there. And how cool is it, Ed? I'm just going to quickly get sentimental on this moment. How cool is it to see so many of the BMWs near the front of the field again? It's a car we don't often see many of in the championship, or haven't before now. It's great to see it come back to the fore this season.
Yeah, definitely. It's wonderful to see. And they've been hearing rumours, of course, for time and time again, that we're going to get the sort of the newer style BMW GT4 car. Still not sure if we're going to be getting that or not anytime soon, but will be potentially one of its last seasons in usage for the SRM GT4 challenge, so why not go out on a high? Potentially a championship for this man, Nils Court, who is certainly looking likely to be one of the drivers to beat this season, with Simon Povey's expected absence later on. James Holman just dropping back from Simon as well. Looking at the lap times, it's 3/4 of a second that Simon was able to pull out on James just on that last lap alone.
It's just
Simon, of course, will need to have a longer pit stop towards the end of the race, but he's accruing enough of an advantage that might not even matter.
It's just, yeah. I mean, I sound like I'm annoyed at him for it, but it's what we've come to know from Simon. And, you know, I had a chat with him the other day, and he wasn't the most confident coming into this season, and he was a bit down that, you know, he has to miss it and not do the full thing. But for what he has been in so far in the championship, he's just been unbelievable. You know, the second round, Nils Court went into a different gear altogether. Nils was absolutely on top in that round of the championship. You know, the confidence of that middle stint, pitting a little bit later pitting a little bit earlier just to get that advantage and run away and have the confidence in himself to build up that gap. It was amazing, but Simon was still right there in second place and battling away with him, and it was lovely to watch. But Simon's just been on another planet in the other 2 races so far this season, and I'm sure that he'll want to do as much of the championship as he can to show us that it's not a phase. It's definitely not a phase, Mum. But we've got Dominic Brennan trying to get past Kim Such at the moment. Kim's been defending really valiantly at this point. Porsche versus Porsche. Dom definitely needs to gain places here because he needs to defend that second place in the championship, doesn't he? Because he's not going to have Simon in front of him the whole time. And it's not quite the performance we were expecting from Dom here after so many strong performances already. And podiums, of course.
Had a great first 30 minutes of this race, and I wonder what the next 30 will have in store.
Can't believe we're halfway through.
Yeah, I know, right? It does really fly by.
You just made me jump then by saying that. I looked at the clock expecting it to say like 45 minutes. You said 30 and I thought, Ed, have you gone blind, mate? Like, come on. And it's actually like half an hour's gone. That's mental.
Yeah, we've had a great first 30, and the next 30 are certainly lining up to be a real cracker. Currently watching, I've been looking at the relative just at the battle for the final point scoring positions. It's just starting to open out a little bit more. Toby John's currently hanging on to 20th place, but John Roberts is certainly right there fighting with him. I think Ben Chalcroft as well is up with a little bit of a battle, I think, between himself and Paul Goffin. An RD Sim Sport car going through the bus stop. You can really see it lean a lot, actually, the BMW going through the corner. It's a sort of a block of flats going at high speed through a twisting, turning bend.
Yeah, it really does show off a lot of body language, as the BMW. There's a few cars in the GT4 category that do, actually. The McLaren, I find, is one that bobbles around quite a lot. You see it move from one corner to the next. You see it sort of absorb the curbs and sort of wobble around. You wouldn't really expect it from such a low-slung, pointy, mid-engine GT car, but yeah, these GT4 cars are great at that, you know, and obviously it's part of why we love iRacing so much. The way that the cars are rendered for what we see, it's just, it's unmatched, you know, it is unmatched in so many ways. The way that we get to watch these cars, the natural motion of the cameras and all sorts, it's fantastic, really fantastic. But John Barnes is currently holding on to 10th place with Dennis Van Beelen. Ryan Penny is still in front of Dominic Brennan. Dominic's going to get fed up of seeing orange again. But it's this settled middle stint for the moment, while drivers try and sort of realign their positions on the circuit and get used to who they're around, and now starts the maths for the final stint of the night. It's going darker here though, the sun is definitely dropping. But it's looking very pretty.
Now, Niels Court is, I think, certainly well within slipstream range of James Holman. We'll keep our eyes on this battle as Dominic Brennan tries to find a way past this bright orange Porsche, but a little lift of the throttle tells us that he's probably going to be saving fuel at this moment in time. So I think we can potentially pivot to that battle and see Niels Court hunting down James Holman, who himself is actually being hunted down, Niels Court, by Taylor Adams, who's, I think, just gotten ahead of Christopher Smith, and Kyle Ridley's dropped back there in that battle. So all the way around the grid there is action at every turn. Yeah, Kyle Ridley's just in behind Christopher Smith now. Christopher Smith, he's on a real tear, isn't he?
He's really pushing at the moment, is Christopher Smith. He's having a fantastic battle, but at the same time, he's got to have in the back of his mind the idea that he knows the second stop will have to be longer and it will come earlier than those around him. So he's trying to make the most of being in the slipstream here, being at the sharp end, and hoping that will benefit him a little bit later. It's another one of the fantastic strategy calls that we've seen many of from Chris in his time in the championship. The Hungaroring in Season 2 was just an absolute masterstroke. The first time that we'd ever seen anybody make it on a one-stop, I recall, and taking a brilliant, brilliant race win, and I think a 1-2 for RD Sim Sport as well, with his teammate Callum Brandt. Not seen Callum in the championship for a while now, which is a shame, but obviously we wish him all the best wherever he may be and whatever he may be racing in. And it's always great to have RD Sim Sport on board. The guys are really supportive of us and our campaigns here as Sim Racing Magazine. They've always got some very strong entries for the championships. I think Kim Such has had an issue here, you know, actually, because he has dropped a bunch of places into this battle. Let's see what's happened here. Just over rotation? Yeah. We had a quid, eh?
It's that nasty little bump. Again, just catching another driver out, Chaz.
The recovery for him as well. Oh, it doesn't want to play ball in recovery, and he's overheated the rears, and he's trying to kick it back into life. Maybe a little bit frustrated, and it's not playing. Ryan Penny's having a good run tonight. The reigning AM champion of the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing Series. He's just ahead of Dominic Brennan, and he's not letting him through. He's not rolling over and just letting Dominic move by, knowing that he's higher up in the championship. Ryan is doing a great job. I love this sort of twilight that we're in now, where you can see the effect of the headlights on the circuit and on the cars around them, but it's not completely pitch black. You know, we can still tell what the cars are and where they are, but you've got that slight glow of the sky. I love this time of night. It's awesome, really awesome to see. In the sim, actually, right now, it's just 5:45 as well. We use the real event date, although it says it's January the 1st, 2024 on there, but it shouldn't be. It should be the 30th. As, oh, dearie me, Ryan Penny's gone a little bit deep into the first corner and let go of that position. Mike Murphy wants a bit of this as well now. He's going to look down the inside, tries to fake him, tries to just send him the dummy into the International Horseshoe. Doesn't work out.
Yeah, so the cold night is setting in, but the action's hotting up, as I can tell you, 9/10 of a second. That's the difference between Niels Core and James Holman on that last lap. Niels is really closing in on that second place at this moment in time, dragging the likes of Taylor Adams, Christopher Smith and Kyle Ridley along with him. So we'll keep our eyes on that delta there on the left-hand side of the screen, because Niels Core might just be getting one over on James Holman as well. They were faster, actually, Niels Core and Jason Pack, than Simon Povey on that last time around. So they could try and work together to close back up to Simon, or we might see a change in position, and already a very early look to the outside line. James has been very good at keeping that defensive shape, but now with Simon Povey into the pits, this is pivotal for Niels Core to get this move done, and the overspeed, I think, is just too much for James Holman to really fight with, and he's going to slam the door shut in his face. One up there by Niels Core, so close to it ending in disaster, but he's judged the length of that BMW to perfection. And look at that, all the way around the outside. Can Taylor Adams get a piece of the action as well? No, slots in behind. Really good defence by James Holman. He tried his best to keep Niels Core at bay, but he just didn't have the legs, so had to settle instead for slamming the door shut in Taylor Adams' face, thankfully without his fingers getting caught in the door.
Yeah, that was very close, feisty stuff, wasn't it? Efkan Birkier has come into the pits quite interestingly. He did a 25-second stop earlier on, so I'm not quite sure what the idea is there for him, but maybe he's just filling the car back up to full again and knowing that he can then run to the end on it. Simon Povey is coming out of the pit lane. Where is he going to be in terms of traffic? Because that's another question that's going to be raised here. I think there's a car just going by. No, actually, it's just in front of Ben Chalcraft, and then there's 4 seconds ahead to Mark Johnson, so he's got a little bit of clear air before he reaches another car. But great timing that by Niels Core. He's got ahead of James Holman right when he needed to. Maybe thinking at this point as well that James is having to save fuel of his own. Taylor Adams has been great though, hasn't he? A fantastic addition, and his teammate Matt Slight, and the Danny Lee Pro Simrig team as well, and even Kyle Ridley and his teammate Stephen Burns for Win It or Bin It Racing. You know, the quality that's been injected towards the front of the field this season in particular has just been absolutely awesome. But let's not forget Taylor's performances in the GT4 Winter Tour as well in the Aston Martin. He was a superstar there. And what on earth is Paul Goffin doing in Sector 3? He's gone purple again, even in the race. It's just... Paul's got some sort of magical secret around there in this Porsche, hasn't he? I don't know what he's doing. We'll have to ask him.
Yeah, it's weird that you would have thought that it would be all of the other sectors where it'd be sort of making up the time with slipstream, but no, it's just that middle sector, and he's just really pushing hard. It's great to see, of course, that he's got the pace everywhere up and down the field. Drivers have the potential to go faster than anybody else, but in the purple sectors, potentially also purple lap times in addition. Because the level that we have here is truly something else.
Niels
is that maybe a defensive move, or was that maybe the rear end into a little bit of a bump? Niels Core and James Holman battling out, and they don't need to do this. All they have to do is just focus on working together, because Simon Povey is going to be a good sort of handful of laps before they need to pit. So why not work together? While Simon might have to encounter traffic, he could catch up to the rear end of Mark Johnson and Mike Murphy. That's a bit of a battle that he will have to contend with should he arrive on the scene. Plenty of time to go, I'd expect, before we see drivers making their second pit stop. It's certainly not without the realms of possibility that that could come to pass. Just work together, lads. You don't need to do this.
It's fantastic stuff. I think actually Niels was making it very clear that he wanted to defend from James with that move to the right. It was too slow a movement, I think, for the car to have snapped on him, but yeah, he was telling James, before James even went for it, he was saying to him, look, I will defend this no matter what you're going to do. And the two of them, I think, after earlier on, they had a bit of a disagreement in the first stint. Look at it now. It's like they're holding a grudge against each other. This is really hard racing between the two of them. James looking down the inside where he really doesn't have to. It's almost like they've both thrown their toys out the pram. They've thrown a strop at each other and said, look, because of you, we've lost Simon. Now I'm going to have a go at you. Now we're going to battle. He's like, right, stuff it. It's best of the rest. Simon's gone. We're going to fight each other. But Taylor Adams and the guys behind are just able to watch this and take advantage of it and enjoy themselves. James Holman actually in the pits first, while the rest of them carry on. Danny Lee's going to continue. Matt Slight is going to continue. So too is Dean Powell. What about John Barnes and Dennis Van Beelen? These two just inside the top 10. They're both carrying on as well. Oh, John Barnes, I think, missed a gear or something there. Dennis really closed up to the back of him all of a sudden, and John's revs dropped. Nothing too untoward there. Now let's keep our eye on James Holman on this pit lane 2 camera, the only car in the pits currently, although Dominic Brennan has just made his way in. Simon Povey isn't quite in shot just yet. He's just crossing the line now. Actually, here he comes. He's on the left-hand side of your screen, goes by into turn 1, and Simon Povey has a solid lead still, even after that second stop. I shouldn't sound surprised, but there was every chance that it might not have been that big a gap. But Holman was in the pits for 20 seconds even that time round.
Holman's got the magic fuel tank, I think, that he's been able to work this to his benefit. It's James Holman right up in behind John Roberts, so not the best pit exit for him. Got another Mercedes for company though, at the very least. Very rare that we see 2 Mercedes on track together because there's so few of them, but lovely little shot there before we move to the battle out in front. Nils Core, Taylor Adams, Kyle Ridley, BMW, McLaren, BMW battling out for the lead of the race, but look at the overall lead of the race after the pit stop. So has Simon Povey done his strategy to perfection. Still a little while to go, I would imagine, before we see these drivers come into the pits, and Simon is closing in on that Mark Johnson, Mike Murphy little tussle.
He absolutely is, yeah. He's starting to get close to the back of these guys, but if he catches them at the right point, he should be okay. He's 8 seconds ahead of James Holman, so the gap's got even bigger. I would have thought that James and the guys would at least eat into the gap a little bit during that second stint, but no, not at all. They have really, really not. John Barnes comes into the pit lane. He's one of the drivers from the top 10 to make his next stop. James Holman has got past John Roberts, maybe not in a way that John's happy about, as John continues to flash the lights again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Not quite sure what's gone on there. We'll have a look at it. He's gone down the inside into the bus stop. John's already flashing the lights. Well, there was a flashing of lights. Yeah, he's already doing it. Clearly not happy with that, but it's one of those, I guess. James wasn't to know that John was going to pit that time round. Still, I love these shots here when we've got the cars all lighting each other up on the exit corners. Look in the background there as the cars go around the banking. Looks oh so cool as we go under lights here at Daytona, the first race of the season where we do head into the dark. I don't think there's any other races this season actually that start as late as this. Spa-Francorchamps will be similar. Twin Run Motegi actually will be about this time of day as well. So that's going to be one where we go into the dark, which will be great. That's the penultimate race of the season as well in Japan. I'm looking forward to having a bit more of a world tour this time round. Instead of just an American and European part of the season, we are going to include some of the Australian and Japanese circuits as well, the Australasia part of the championship. 12 race meetings again as opposed to the 10 that we've had in the past. And Nils Core, I'm sure we'll look forward to most of them, because the BMW, you know, we say it's got one strength here and that's it, but it's proved to be a very good all-rounder in the right hands, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has done, and I think Nils Core has proven to be more than capable as a driver of this car, as we see one of the BMWs coming to the pits, Kyle Ridley and Danny Lee as well into the pits, whereas Nils Core and Taylor Adams continue on. Now let's not forget, Nils Core extended his first stint by 1 lap compared to the entire rest of the field. Is he able to do that again? I know Taylor Adams is with him, so if we see Taylor Adams coming to the pits next lap, are we going to see Nils Core come in with him, or will Nils just continue on as he has done? Simon Povey closing up to Mark Johnson, but Mark's into the pits, so he hasn't been held up at all. In fact, if anything else, he's gained. He's got some slipstream. We're going to look at the time he's across the line. That's going to be one of his fastest laps of the race. Actually, previously, this time it wasn't quite there. Still, Simon is going to come through, and I think ahead of Kyle Ridley by a decent margin. Not the biggest gap in the world, but
look
still.
At that. Look at Kyle over James.
Handy margin.
Kyle is 6 seconds ahead of James Holman. Danny Lee is ahead of James Holman as well. So that has really not worked out for the Mercedes driver there.
Danny Lee was right behind Kyle Ridley, and that's 5 seconds that Kyle's just gained.
Kyle was in the pits for 16.2 seconds, only in the pit lane for 2 seconds less as well. How on earth has he made that work? But Kyle Ridley's made it work either way. Great stuff by the Australian. Simon Povey going well, but I was going to say, Ed, let's not forget that Taylor Adams at Road America last time out was the only one to make the McLaren go as long as it did on the fuel, while still being rapid as well. Because they were in the fight, weren't they, with the Danny Lee Pro Sim Rig cars and the RD Sim Sport cars. And Taylor Adams made this car work so well on the fuel. And he's doing it again tonight here at Daytona. He's dropped away from Niels a little bit, which tells me that he is having to really sip the tank on this last run. And the two of them come into the pits just now.
There we go.
Oh, we've had a drama. Sorry, Ed, we've had a drama.
What's
Ryan
gone
Walker
on?
and Kim Such at the International Horseshoe have had an accident here. Ryan Walker returning to the series after not being with us for the previous round. Oh, the car's just got into the ABS and not stopped. As he goes into the hairpin, he comes out of the pits. That's a massive shame for both drivers involved.
Now, this is the perfect shot. Thank you very much, Chaz. Just looking down the pit lane, looking at the tri-oval as well, the start-finish line. There comes Simon Povey. Niels Core is underway. They've cut the deficit to Simon Povey, and are they going to actually get out ahead of him? Here we go, Simon in towards turn 1. Niels Core still into the pit lane limiter speed. Will get back up to racing speed after these green cones. He'll be just in behind Simon Povey, but well within slipstream range. Game on, race on for the victory.
Taylor Adams is ahead of Kyle Ridley as well, and it's really spread out now because Kyle is ahead of Danny Lee by 3.8 seconds. So that battle behind all of those guys has been completely put to bed for the time being. James Holman's going to be pushing like mad, but yes, Niels Core is less than a second behind Simon Povey. The German mastermind has once again made it work. Like I said, German efficiency driving German efficiency. Phenomenal stuff by Niels Core this. Simon thought he was out of the woods. We all thought Simon was out of the woods, but definitely not now. We have 10 3/4 minutes left to go. We don't usually have this long left of the race after the second stops, do we?
We really don't. This is going to be, what do we say in the first half hour? Great race in the second half hour. Well, it's going to be giving us a brilliant finish to the race. And the old rivals are back at it again. Simon Povey and Niels Core. Exactly what we saw, really, wasn't it? The two drivers dueling in Road America. And now on the final leg of our American tour, 3 races that we've had at the start of the season. Who's going to come out on top? Niels Core, after the disappointment the first round at Laguna Seca. He is really bouncing back from this in the perfect fashion.
I was going to say Taylor Adams was losing a bit of time there actually because Niels Core was getting the slipstream from Simon. Taylor wasn't quite in enough of a sort of closing speed to keep up with Niels Core, and he is actually losing quite a lot of time now, unfortunately, as Niels closes in because he's half a second behind Simon. The golden McLaren, not so golden at the moment because he's going to be quaking in his boots because that big old BMW is right there once again. It's been a fantastic turnaround for him. James Holman is right with Danny Lee as well. James is hoping to gain another place back. He'll be devastated that the whole strategy hasn't worked out, really. He did have an issue at Laguna Seca, didn't he, with a bugged pit stop, actually, that started taking tyres. I wonder whether it's had similar again, and obviously he's had to untick it and stop it doing that, and that's cost him a couple of seconds. I'm not sure.
Potentially. I mean, yeah, it's been... sadly, a race to forget, because he had a great start to the race, didn't he? Getting one over on Niels Core at the start and then racing in second for a majority, but then has just seemingly dropped out of the fight, even potentially for a podium, because Kyle Ridley and I think Taylor Adams, they might be having that fight. And I think actually it's probably more Taylor Adams, because Kyle Ridley did drop off quite a bit after the pit stops.
Toby Johns and Philip
here.
Hockley.
Yeah, these two battling away for not quite the final point scoring position, but certainly close to. And if there's problems for other drivers further up the order, this could be pivotal for some championship points. Simon Povey and Niels Core now, well, pretty much nose to tail. In behind as well, I think we're going to have potentially a battle between Taylor Adams and Kyle Ridley. Just maybe there are thereabouts. Actually, Taylor Adams really closing up through that bus stop chicane. Yeah, this could be a 3-way fight.
Yeah, he's 1.2 seconds behind these guys now. He's going to lose a little bit to Niels because he's closing in on Simon using the slipstream there, but no, he's actually getting closer and closer.
He's gaining on Simon.
He's
getting a double help in the slipstream.
He absolutely is. Taylor Adams is going to be a part of this as well, everybody. Taylor was an absolute star in the GT4 Winter Tour, and again, great contributor to the community as well. Always lovely to have around. It's great to see him racing like this. Look at the lead pair right up to the wall at the top. Simon is saying, go on then, Nils, after you. Look at how wide he's going through turn 1. You couldn't make it any more obvious. Simon wants this scrap. He wants to be in the slipstream. That tells me he needs to save fuel. Niels Core takes the lead at Daytona in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge here in round 3 of season 4. Of course, this wonderful series sponsored by the epic people at Oris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters joining us as a sponsor from this round onwards. And we've got a hell of a fight going on here. 7/10 of a second covering the top 3 with 7 minutes to go. 53 minutes through this race. The strategies have been all over the place, and we've got, well, 2 of the most likely protagonists at the front, but the superstar Taylor Adams has made his way into this community and into these championships, and boy, he's made a splash. Let's not forget Kyle Ridley as well, 1.4 seconds off the back of this. The extra BMW in the fight could make all the difference. Let's see.
It really could, you know. But I think throughout all of that reluctance almost from Niels Core to take that first place, that's really brought Taylor Adams into this fight, hasn't he? Taylor Adams was a second back from second place coming over the line, but then coming out of turn 1, he was basically right on the rear end, right on the bumper of Simon Povey. So now it is well and truly a 3-way tussle, potentially even the awesome foursome till the end. With Niels Core, Simon Povey, Taylor Adams and Kyle Ridley. He's certainly going to be hoping that there's a little bit more of a battle in the dying minutes. He could potentially snatch a victory or at least a podium, because Kyle's done an absolute stand-up job on the sort of strategy as well. We've seen him sort of gain and gain at every single pit stop, and it's put him right where he needs to be at the end.
Well, we thought we had a fantastic race at Road America last time out as Nils gets very hard on the brakes. Wow, Simon Povey has to really take evasive action. Great stuff by Taylor Adams as well, not to go into the back of him. Wow, Nils seemed very early on the brakes there. Not quite sure if he wanted Simon to go by around the outside or what, but the guys behind had to really react very suddenly to that. But I was going to say, we had a belter at Road America last time out with the battles towards the end of the race, the strategy's working out, and this is another absolute cracker from Daytona. It's probably better than the 24 was, which was a good race in itself. James Holman and Danny Lee together as well, and then we've got this, Matt Slight and Dean Powell also having a scrap. These two have been under the radar since the start, but look at them swapping around all the time in Tower. This is epic.
This is a real battle for the ages, up and down the field, and Danny Lee all the way around the outside. Can he fit his way through? Matt Slight and Dean Powell, sorry. Dean Powell looking away through, but not quite there. Christopher Smith, he could fancy a move here as well. These two slowing each other out. Look at the BMW now in the picture.
We've also got James Holman and Danny Lee having a fight ahead of this. Danny Lee's just got the better of him.
That was what I was thinking of, yeah.
He's
this little tussle.
Just got the better of him onto the banking this time round. But now James is in the slipstream. He's going to try and get him back. So we've got some epic fights all inside the top 10 and even outside of that as well. In 14th, 15th and 16th, Ryan Penny, Mark Johnson and Efkan Berkier having an awesome scrap. But we need to keep our eye on these places in the top 10 at the moment, I'm afraid, because there's so many of these battles that could affect each other in the long run here and in the bigger picture that you need to keep your eye on it. And that is it for Dean Powell. Oh, Dean, it is such a shame it goes that way, but just ran a little bit deep, and Christopher Smith had to get to the apex still, and they tried to give each other as much room as possible, but when you're trying to carry as much speed and you're on a compromised line, it is not easy to do. That is a huge shame, that, Ed.
Yeah, that is terrible to see that.
Be good if I got the right camera.
End that way. There we go. It's just fancying a little half shots up the inside. You can see it here. I mean, look at the space that's given to him initially on the way in, but then the gap just closes up, and
just
Dean might have
wide.
taken a little bit too much speed in, goes at the side of him. It's difficult to measure, especially with the benefit of hindsight. And what's going on there with Dean? Is he struggling to get the car turned? It looks like it's not all straight and healthy. Niels Core certainly doesn't have a healthy lead to Simon Povey.
Look behind him.
Very precarious
Look
indeed.
behind him. It's
And
Kyle
now
Ridley.
Kyle Ridley's joining the party. Here we go.
We're going to have one more lap after this, Ed. One more lap after this. Simon Povey's around. Povey spins. Povey has spun the car coming onto the banking. Not even onto the banking, actually. Just at the corner before it, I think he might have hit the back of Niels Core. Yeah, he hits the back of the BMW. think Nils caught him out there. I'm not quite sure whether he broke harder or earlier than normal.
Again, it's just one of those moments as well, and that could be Simon's dominance in the race coming back to hurt him, because he's so used to having clear track in front of him into all of these braking zones. So when there's a car ahead, he has to adjust, and all of a sudden it doesn't quite work in his favour. Look, just a little bit too much speed, and he touched the grass, and that loosens the rear. It looked a little bit shaky, didn't he? He was turning into the corner, so he's already got the car loose just on the sort of the slip angle, which is what you need to get the speed into the car. But that tap of the grass as he's turning in, the car already looks a little bit unsettled.
Yeah, it may have been, but that's a massive shame for it to go that way. Taylor Adams will be a happy bunny because that puts him in second place, and Nils Corr is now 1.2 seconds clear at the front of the field. Kyle Ridley up from 7th onto a podium. Taylor Adams started this race in 6th place as well. Simon Povey still holds 4th, so he's not completely lost out, but he's got Holman and Danny Lee hoping to gain places from him behind. Another twist in the tail here in this race, and we will have another lap after this one actually, Ed. My maths is horrendous. We still have 1 minute and 42 seconds left, and it's 1 minute 52 for a lap here, so some of these drivers may get caught out, you know, with fuel.
Oh, and what drama that would be. I think Simon Povey could be good to the end, but some of the drivers that definitely short-fueled at those later stops, likes of Nils Corr and Taylor Adams, they could start to sweat. Kyle Ridley had a 16-second pit stop, came in a lap earlier. Oh, it's too close to call one way or the other. Could have come through. We could see James Holman win the race on fuel. Ryan Penny now right in the mix of a tussle as we moving around. We don't know where to look, Chaz. We've got so many different battles going on. It's impossible to pick just one.
My lazy eye's vibrating at this point. Philip Hopley's in 19th place ahead of Toby Johns. Those two both on for championship points now. I think there'd been an issue for... Oh no, Gary Toll retired earlier. Dean Powell had his incident, didn't he? So he lost places there. So these guys have benefited from some of the retirements. Nils Corr is now less than a second ahead of Taylor Adams. Taylor is in slipstream range here. He's got Kyle Ridley just about a second behind him. But then they've got 4.8 seconds to Simon Povey. So we've got one more lap here at Daytona in round 3 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge Season 4. Nils Corr leads the race after a dramatic final stint. Contact with Simon Povey put Simon down into 4th place after leading the whole thing and making it look like it was his race. Nils Corr has found his way to the front. It certainly didn't look like it was Nils' race earlier on either. Battling with James Holman really hard while wanting to slipstream each other and work together to stay with Simon. They had a great scrap. It was awesome to watch, but it did not help them in the long run. Now, if you're Taylor Adams here, Ed, you've just got to gun it. You've just got to absolutely go for it, haven't you?
You've just need to take every single chance you can get. Any gap, just force Nils Corr to maybe go slightly defensive into the bus stop and then get the run out of the corner. That's, I think, where Taylor Adams, if he has a chance of winning the race, that's what he has to do. Get good run now coming from this next left-hander. Focus on that, and then focus on trying to unsettle Nils Corr. Don't go for the move, but just unsettle him and get the run at the line.
Efkan Berkier has come into the pit lane. Not quite sure whether that's for a drive-through penalty or some other issue that he's had, but might even just be for fuel. Yeah, 4.5 seconds actually he's been in the box and he's back out, so it's just for fuel. But Nils Corr leads. That is the fact at the moment. It's half a second back to Taylor Adams. There's going to be a run to the line here, I feel. Taylor has been quick through the bus stop as well in the very pointy McLaren that they've painted to look like a Senna at the front. God knows why I do that. The Senna is horrific to look at. But still, Taylor Adams chasing him into the bus stop for the final time. An hour of racing has come down to this moment. It was a little bit squirrely from Taylor. I think he was a bit too worried about keeping it on the straight and narrow, but now he's going to have the run. The BMW is great on its own without slipstream, but is it great enough to keep Taylor Adams at bay round the final corner of this hour-long race? He could get this, I think, Ed. We'll have to see. It's Regenta Sim Racing's Taylor Adams chasing down Nils Corr. The German leads the way. Is he going to hold it to the line? I think he is. And for his second win of the season, Nils Corr does it at Daytona. Taylor Adams second, Kyle Ridley third. What a brilliant race. Simon Povey is just ahead of James Holman. And Christopher Smith, sorry, not Christopher Smith, Danny Lee in there as well. Simon clearly frustrated, as you see there, crossing the line, putting the car in the wall. Matt Slight and Christopher Smith next up, 7th and 8th. And then Dennis Van Beelen finishes where he started, ahead of John Barnes in 10th position in the McLaren. But, well, it may have been in dramatic circumstances, but Nils Corr does it again. What about these boys to the line, Ed?
Yeah, these always go side by side all the way to the line. Mike Murphy, the inside. Is he going to just get short run? They bang doors. And I think it is Mike Murphy who does take 11th place just by the smallest margins to Dominic Brennan. Wow, that was one heck of a finish. And still further back, we've got a battle now for the final point scoring position as well. We can see Efkan Berkier coming over the line in 18th place. We've got Philip Hopley and Toby Johns just in behind. Toby Johns could be on track for his first point of the season.
Absolutely. And look at the speed that Philip Hopley's got in the Mercedes. Is he going to have Efkan off at the line? It's so close, and I think, no, he doesn't quite do it. It's just mere thousandths of a second between the two. Toby Johns gets his first point of the season. Very well done. Ryan Walker just misses out. So too does Martin Kenyon and Fausto Pinto. Flipping heck, who was that? Taylor Adams, though. What a drive from him. Second place.
Chaz, over the line, Efkan was 2 thousandths ahead of Philip Hopley.
Goodness me, I need to cough, I'm so sorry. Goodness gracious me. The Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge delivers again, everybody. Good Lord, what a fantastic race that was. There you can see drivers flashing their lights as they cross the line. Don't worry, Spotify will stop after 30 seconds when I've spoken for long enough. Let's have a look at the results of that amazing race, try and digest it all, and then come back to you with some interviews. Nils Kaur wins by less than 0.2 of a second from Taylor Adams. Both of them did an amazing job tonight. Kyle Ridley also, fantastic drive to get his first podium in the championship. Simon Povey finished his in 4th place. He'll be devastated after that, really, but still, big points. James Holman finishes in 5th position. Again, what might have been for him. Danny Lee, more big points for him, but no podium this time round. Matt Slight finishes 7th, with Christopher Smith just behind in 8th place. Dennis Van Beelen is next up in 9th. He had a very under-the-radar performance, as I've said. He's good at those, is Dennis, but again, big points for Chicane Online Racing. John Barnes completes the top 10 in the McLaren as a privateer. Mike Murphy was next up with Dominic Brennan of Spontex CDM Esports in 12th. Dominic, coming into this second in the championship, would have wanted much more. Mark Johnson 13th, Ryan Penny a good drive to 14th ahead of Paul Goffin, who set 1,000,001 purple sectors in Sector 3 tonight. John Roberts was 16th ahead of Ben Chalcraft, and Efkan Berkier just holding on to his position at the end of the race, ahead of Philip Hopley and Toby Johns, who score their first points of the season. Well done, gents. Martin Kenyon finishes in 21st, ahead of Ryan Walker, who was really in the wars tonight. Fausto Pinto in 23rd place in car 23, ahead of Kim Such, another driver that unfortunately fell by the wayside. Dean Powell also with that incident towards the end. Gary Tall had his issues in the pit lane. Pete Thickett also having an incident as well and a penalty in the pit lane. Andy Marston having a bit of a tough time tonight in 28th. And Peter Brill, the only car that was one lap down, but he completed the race in 29th. So we actually had all of the cars running at the end of the race there, Ed, which is nice to see.
That is really good, considering we saw a few moments of, a few incidents here and there. Great to have everyone coming across the line there to finish the race. And what a race it was at Daytona. Late dramas as well. Bit of a moment for Simon Povey, and then as well Nils Kaur taking the top honours. 2 races on the bounce for Nils Kaur. This is what you need to have, a good run of victories to mount a championship charge.
You absolutely do, and we speak with the man himself now, Nils Kaur, in the commentary box with us. Nils, you must be relieved, I think, after that one. It was certainly a scary race at many points, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was very intense again. This time it was even harder because this time around Simon had the better pace. So my only chance was really to try to save enough fuel and try to get him in the pits, and it just about worked out. I had exactly 0.3 liters over the line.
Very, very close indeed. We were wondering, actually, because there was going to be one more lap, whether everybody had that in reserve. What was it like trying to chase Simon down once he came back out of the pits? Because we realised that the gap was definitely not there, and we sort of expected it to be a bigger gap.
Yeah, the gap was just about small enough that I could catch up to him. It was like 9/10, I believe. So, yeah, when I came out, I knew, you shouldn't mess up any of the next corners, or it's over.
And it's a shame, obviously, about the contact at the end, but it seemed like what we saw, Simon's car was just a little bit out of shape onto the grass, and then he bounced off the back of the Beamer. It didn't affect your car in any way, did it?
No, that's... I think that's what people call the new damage model spin.
Yeah.
Which somehow just makes the car behind spin and not the car ahead. And this time it's obviously good for me. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think I braked earlier or went slower. I actually just compared to my previous laps and the laps after. I didn't really slow down more than I was in the laps before. I think he just, I don't know if he hit the grass or just tried to send it a bit harder than previously.
Well, it was still a fantastic race once again, Nils, and obviously it's great to see you bounce back with 2 wins on the bounce from the painful time of Laguna Seca, which I'm sure you'll want to forget. But much more confidence now, I'm sure, going into the rest of the season and on that upper rise. You must feel very, very happy about the season ahead.
Yeah, very much. It's definitely kicking off now after the poor first round.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on next time round. Any plans for the week off? You're going to have a lie down? Because I think you'll probably need it after these 2.
Yeah, actually for the next week I don't have any racing plans, so I'm probably just going to keep it a bit cool.
You always do, Nils. You always do. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick thanks to while we've got you on the stream?
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to my team, our sponsors, and also to Dennis again, who now finished in P9, so he got his first points in. Very nice. Unfortunately, Ryan had an incident at the start of the race, so he just missed out on the points this time.
That was great stuff to watch from you, Nils. Thank you very much for joining us again. Well done on the win, and enjoy the week off. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks a lot. See you guys.
Cheers. Nils Core, 2 wins on the bounce, and to be fair, actually, Ed, he's quite right regarding the damage model. I was commentating on the World GT Championship last night, the WSR World GT Championship, and it seems like he called it the new damage model spin, but it reminds me of how R Factor used to be. If you just tap the back of the car in front of you, it sort of stops your car dead and spins you around. It's a horrible feeling, and unfortunately, that level of the physics has sort of made its way into iRacing, and he's absolutely right. It could have been that as well, but it did look to us like Simon's car was unsettled anyway, didn't it?
Yeah, it was just, I think that tap of the grass and then the turn in again, being used to being out in front for so long, it does things too over that period of time, and then all of a sudden you've got a car, you need to adjust your braking markers, you've got to focus more on the corner exit rather than the way into the corner. And then, yeah, that's just a little mistake, which is so rare to see from him, but that was a pivotal race-changing moment.
And it certainly helped this driver out as well for that one, because Taylor Adams joins us in the commentary box. Taylor, you must be absolutely beaming after that one. What a fantastic performance tonight. Talk us through it.
Yeah, no, that was intense, that race. I nearly collected Simon at the end when he spun, but yeah, I just sat behind Nils for the whole race, just like, please pull me along, please. And it helped.
Absolutely, but that's the thing, you've got to play the game, haven't you? It's not just sprint racing and flat-out driving everywhere, especially with the 40% fuel limit. It really keeps things just as close to that limit as possible, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I played it a bit risky going the extra lap in the middle stint. I was like chugging down the pit lane like no fuel left, but it did pay off, fortunately. It was quite close.
Absolutely, and the first quarter of the season is now complete. Our American tour is done and we head over to Europe. How are you feeling after the first 3 meetings? Are you enjoying yourself so far?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better than I was expecting, and it's really fun. Yeah, it's a good pickup every week. It's a good thing to look forward to every week, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
It's lovely to hear that, Taylor, and we of course wish you the best for the upcoming rounds. Any plans for the week off? Just going to chill out?
Don't know. I might go to Falmouth or St Ives because it's only down the road. So
why
not?
Fun. Why not, eh? Well, it's an absolute pleasure, Taylor. Anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
So I'd like to give a thanks, first of all, to you guys for putting on this. It's great fun. To Matt Slight, my teammate, for helping me get on the pace again. And then also definitely a big thanks to Nils for pulling me up to Simon at the end, because I don't think I would have done it without him.
Lovely stuff. Well, great to speak to you, Taylor. Thank you very much for jumping in. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, Taylor Adams, like I said, Ed, he was just awesome in the GT4 Winter Tour, and now he's got the results to reflect it in the GT4 Challenge as well.
Yeah, he's been doing really good, and it's great to see him right back up there, fighting for those victories, fighting for those podiums, and I don't think that's the last time we're going to be seeing him on the podium and certainly fighting for a race victory. He's one of the drivers I think we earmarked at the start of the season to maybe get some top honours, and I think this next driver is another one that we have kept our eyes on.
Absolutely. It's the win it or bin it racing driver, Kyle Ridley. Kyle, you must be another driver that's absolutely buzzing after tonight. What a fantastic result. First podium. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was I was a bit surprised because I've not had podium pace for the first 2 rounds, so I got here and was comfortable straight away, and okay, quality didn't go quite well, but I was in the top pack for the entire race and played the fuel game and was able to be there at the end and pick up a nice, well-earned P3.
Well earned indeed, because coming out of the pits in that final stint, obviously the guys in front of you completed their stops. Were you expecting to be able to reel them back in, or did you sort of expect that once they'd come out the gap was going to stay quite similar?
Well, I should have been alongside them or ahead of them. I got a lapped car who had an incident in the bus stop right in front of me on my outlap, so I lost at least 2 seconds just there.
Ouch.
Because I was hoping to keep up with Simon. That was the plan, but yeah, lucky he didn't. His pace faded, and we could all catch him again. So it was all. End of the day, it was all irrelevant with the lapped car, and then yeah, just lucky to avoid Simon at the end as well.
I was going to say that was one of the most pivotal moments of the race, and obviously it's a shame to see it and the way that the physics worked out in that situation, but great avoidance by yourself and Taylor. First quarter of the season's been done now. We have a week off. Are you looking forward to, 1, the week off, and 2, the rest of the season? You enjoying yourself so far?
I am really enjoying myself. I'm trying to, really get my teeth stuck in with the GT4s, doing I think like 3 leagues and 1 car at the moment, but I'm very happy there's a week off next week because I wasn't going to wake up for this one because I was up late. Lucky I did. And I can sleep in next week.
Well, enjoy the lie-in, Kyle. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to before you go?
Yeah, of course. I want to thank yourself, Chaz, and Ed for the commentary. I want to thank all the boys who put SRM together. I don't know names, so I'll just say the boys. I want to thank Stephen for the livery at Win It and Bin It, and all the boys at Win It and Bin It. Thank you.
Cracking. Cheers, Kyle. Thank you very much, mate. Like I say, enjoy the lie-in next time, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Have a good one.
Cheers.
And there we go. First time podium finisher, Kyle Ridley, Ed. And what a fantastic, fantastic bloke Kyle is. He's raced in the British Boring Car Championship before on Chaz Draycott Media. He did mighty well there for Team Jane Fonda, but he's certainly fond of this series and his result tonight.
Oh, Chaz.
Sorry.
That was... Oh, yeah, on fine form as always. But yeah, he has been a real revelation, I think, this season. And maybe not necessarily the smoothest ride of things, but certainly a driver that you can expect big things from as he beds in and certainly gets more used to the GT4s and the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge as a whole. Of course, a lot of the time the drivers have to be used to just the single format, but this season we're running 2 different formats, so that might make it a little bit harder for some of the newcomers potentially.
Definitely. In 2 weeks' time, we come back with Silverstone on the 13th of February. Another one of our endurance rounds. Silverstone's always been a good circuit for the GT4 Challenge. It's definitely one that I'm looking forward to having back on the calendar. We then go to Circuit Le Dénon in France, where we have rounds 5 and 6. We have 2 sprint races coming your way, and it's bound to be a night of fireworks. But of course, before that, we have a week off here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We really hope you've enjoyed the show up to now, and of course the first 3 race meetings. Thanks as well to Ed May. Thanks also to the sponsors of the championship, Oris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and our new sponsor, Bespoke Shelters. Thanks to all the viewers, all the drivers, everybody involved. It's an absolute riot doing this GT4 Challenge. I absolutely love it. But for now, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Have a good week off, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Silverstone. 4 French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. These are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and a drift to go out.
Ben Gregory now, I love this. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome to the latest iRacing series from Chaz Draycott Media, the Dirt Legend Speedway Super League. Taking inspiration from the long-standing Dirt Oval Sports Speedway, the Legend Speedway Super League swaps 2 wheels per 4 in the form of the addictively fun Dirt Legend. The format remains similar to that of a Speedway Grand Prix though, with a number of heats featuring just 4 drivers at a time, where they score points and battle for spots in a final at the end of the night. The series will have another angle to it though, focusing on a team or duos championship as the primary goal. Drivers must sign up in pairs and share liveries to try and go for team glory. Format testing showed evidence of a quick-fire race evening full of entertainment and close competition, sure to get the blood pumping. Hoping to get underway at the start of February, you can expect sign-ups to open very soon, and we look forward to having you on track. And very quickly on that note as well, everybody, we have 12 sign-ups at the moment for the championship, hoping to get 16. So if you've stuck around and you are interested, head to chazdraycott.com and check out the CDM at Dirt Legend Super League Speedway thingy, whatever it's called, and we'll hopefully see you on the grid there. Thanks very much.